when my eldest daughter was about 2.5 years old, we were at a we were having a bit of an argument over dinner, and she was very headstrong and whatnot, and I realized I could yell at her because I was getting angry at her, but I was able to pause and use one of my mind models, which is basically a simple question of, well, it's describing feelings, but knowing that I have multiple feelings. And I was able just to pause for a second and ask myself the question, what feelings do I have towards, what are all of my feelings that I have towards my daughter?
Somebody said that effectively there's no intelligence, there's only a series of memories, and it's memories that trigger the links between in our brain that creates intelligence effectively. What do you think of that?
Part of that's accurate, part of that is inaccurate, in my experience. I think it's, obviously it is an oversimplification, but
of course,
what we have here is, let me break it down to what fires together, wires together. So whatever you are, wherever you are, and this is neuro research that's well proven now. This is not debatable anymore. But what fires together, wires together. So that means that, a quick little example, and I'm going to use my daughter. They were over, both of my daughters were over for Thanksgiving here in Canada, yesterday for dinner. And so when my eldest daughter was about 2.5 years old, we were at we were having a bit of an argument over dinner. And, she was very headstrong and whatnot. And I realized I could yell at her because I was getting angry at her, but I was able to pause and use one of my mind models, which is basically a simple question of, well, it's describing feelings, but knowing that I have multiple feelings. And I was able just to pause for a second and ask myself the question, what feelings do I have towards, what are all of my feelings that I have towards my daughter? Well, I'm angry, I'm frustrated, I'm upset, but I also go, I love her. Like, I love her. Yeah. Within all of that, all of those were true, and I'm concerned about her. And I go, which one, just another quick question, which feeling do I wish to act on? Do I want to escalate or de-escalate the whole thing? And, obviously being a dad, I picked love. Well, it's not always love. It's not always obvious. But the thing here is that when you recognize that you have a choice in which emotion you wish to work with and express, everything changed. Like, I changed my tone, my facial expression, how I felt towards her as the dominant thing. Didn't take away the frustration and the anger with all of the other behaviors, but I was able to tell her that I love her, but I don't like the behavior that she's using. She's not the behavior. And that changed everything.
That's extremely powerful. Extremely powerful.
Yep, it was. It was.
And in your mind models, are there positive mind models? Are there negative mind models? Are there?
No.
Describe the mind model for a second.
Okay, let's go with the 3 E's. Those are the ones that I go with all the time, and I've already touched on those.
Okay.
So the first, just to give you a little bit of background on mind models are sort of like a magnifying glass. They're a tool. They're, like as a magnifying glass, they let you focus in and see things sharper, clearer, faster, with more precision. That's what mind models do. Now, in learning, there's two main ways that we learn. First one is mimicry, and the second one, and mimicry is what we do as babies. Like, we mimic to walk, we mimic to talk. We do all of that thing. So if you've ever seen a baby, walking over to or crawling over to a wall and trying to stand up, they're trying to mimic all their parents and people around them that are walking, and they just do it. They're so good at mimicry that they do that. Talking the same way. We make sounds, we get in close, goo goo, like ooh, and we make exaggerated mouth expressions. That's so their brain can literally see how they're thinking and connect, and like see how to form their lips and make sounds, and then they try it out themselves. Mimicry. Second one, as we get a little bit older, we start using compare and contrast. And compare and contrast is what we use almost, not totally exclusively, but predominantly as adults. So I used compare and contrast for the vast majority of my mind models. So one of the basic ones is effective versus ineffective, which I've already mentioned. I define what an effective behavior is. I define what an ineffective behavior is. But it's defined only in the actions to make things. So basically, simply put, effective behaviors takes a secondary mind model, which is externally verifiable versus internally verifiable, but it uses that to go, is what I'm doing effective or ineffective, and is it externally verifiable? Can somebody else, if they were around, could they witness and see the behavior or hear the behavior? If it's just a thought, I have to be able to enunciate it, I have to be able to say it, and share that in some way externally verifiably. If it's not externally, if you can't record it, videotape it, or in some way write it down and share it with somebody else, it's purely internal. If you do your judgments that are like, if it's internal, but it's like, I don't like what I did, I don't like, is that externally verifiable? Well, with seeing what somebody did, I don't know whether or not you did what you got the result that you wanted to get or not. You didn't like it, but I don't know what you were going after. So therefore, that is the issue. I can't verify that for you, with you. I can judge you on it. I can say you were bad or good, right or wrong. But what's the point of doing that? And that's one of the things that we stay away from, are words like good, bad, right, or wrong for effective versus ineffective. We use the words effective or ineffective. Was that effective? Was that ineffective? What made that effective? What made that ineffective?
Right.
And works, if you can't use the word effective or ineffective, then you can go, what worked? What didn't work? And all of a sudden, you get clarity. By the way, that's another one of the mind models, clarity versus certainty. People want to go after certainty? Not in today's world. Certainty does not last more than, you're lucky if it lasts an hour these days. You're just lucky.
I was going for 6 minutes, but...
I know.
But
it's crazy.
This applies to so many people. You're aiming to do your work or to apply your work or to help with your work entrepreneurs, young entrepreneurs. How does that apply to them? What can they do with that?
Well, I'll just finish off the last one, which is evaluation versus judgment. So the first mind model is effective versus ineffective. The second one is external versus internal. The third one is evaluation versus judgment. Well, when an entrepreneur is starting out, or even a well-seasoned, advanced entrepreneur, like I've worked with entrepreneurs that have companies worth in excess of $100 million. Once they learn how to think differently and how to start evaluating rather than judging, you can change corporate culture. But for somebody starting out, you can literally start backing this up and change internal culture,
Right.
which means how many entrepreneurs, people starting out, wind up judging themselves harshly when circumstances go against them.
True.
And so the world is changing so quickly. What worked a month ago or 6 months ago or 2 years ago no longer works today with the speed of change. So being able to adapt is critical.